Hello, BookTube. I've got some mail for you today on Tuesday morning, bright Tuesday morning, and as predicted, as promised, the weather is getting warmer, a little warmer. I've heard horrible intimations that it is temporary and that colder weather and maybe even snow are coming back to New England for the weekend. I'm not looking at any maps or data. I'm trying not to believe that. I don't want to believe that. I am done with cold weather. I am done with being outside and having both me and my tiny little ball of lint aching with the cold of pain of with the pain of cold. I want us to be able to walk around freely. But right now, today, absolutely beautiful. And the mail came, but the first three items of mail that I have for you are not items of mail. When is an item of mail not an item of mail? These came from my surly houseboy, who obeyed a slight request of mine to add to my reading material with magazines. As all of you know, this is March Mystery Madness. This is the month for mysteries, for all things mystery, for loving them, reading them, rereading them, buddy reading them. And I was reminded of that fact that there are mystery periodicals that show up in bookstores. I shelved them in bookstores for a quarter of a century and scarcely have ever read one. And that suddenly, because of March Mystery Madness, it just dawned on me that that doesn't make any sense at all. Not at all. None whatsoever. So I asked if the latest crop of these mystery magazines could be fetched to my boudoir. And they were. And I wanted to show them to you. I haven't delved into them at all. I'm going to go through them in the course of this week. The first one is Ellery Queen magazine, which is Ellery Queen... It's Ellery Queen magazine now. I believe this was once Ellery Queen's magazine with an apostrophe S. But anyway, this is a square-bound digest just like Analog and Asimov, and it has just a collection of short stories, longer stories, and book reviews. And we will just see. I am under the impression that these square-bound mystery magazines sort of have to do some sort of Holmesian pastiche at least once per issue. But I'm perfectly happy if they don't. This is going to introduce me to a large number of new names. And I'm curious to know if the same phenomenon governs these things that does govern the digest science fiction magazines. I've mentioned before with Analog or Asimov that in every single issue, there'll be, you'll have 10 stories of various lengths. But in every single issue, there'll be at least one issue that is the kind of short story that just makes the hairs on your arm stand up. That's just thrillingly good. Now, that won't be true. You won't usually have a whole issue like that. I don't think I've ever encountered that. You won't usually have more than two. But at least one will do that. And if you think about it, that's worth the cover price right there, that feeling. Not just where you finish a short story and think, oh, that was really good, but where you are thrilled by how good it was. That happens in every issue of Asimov's and Analog for me. And I want to know if that's true. I want to know if that's going to happen here. I'm a relative newcomer to hot off the presses, ink still wet mystery short stories. I've read lots of mystery short stories in older anthologies, but a lot of those were known to me. These it'll all be unknown territory. So we have Ellery Queen. We also have Alfred Hitchcock's mystery magazine, and this one the cover announces that it has a Holmes pastiche. This is a Dr. Watson mystery. I don't know if Holmes will feature in those, but it doesn't really matter to me. I'm really curious. These are both just square-bound things. And they are going to include, this one has, a dozen short stories, book reviews, puzzles, nonfiction stuff, that sort of thing. Pretty much exactly analogous to the science fiction digest that I love so much. So we will see. I will read these, and I am going to apply a very simple yardstick to these. I am going to say, I'm going to read them straight through from front to back. And if each one of these, if this magazine produces a story that gives me that visceral response of this was incredible, 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 the response that where you want to press it on someone else, you want to hand that story to some other aficionado of the genre and make them read it right away. Every issue of Asimov's and Analog has at least one story where I want to do that. They have plenty of stories that make me want to pull my hair out, but they have at least one story that is that great. And I remember them. I remember those stories even years later. The Man Who Built the Bridge, the bridge across the mist, or whatever it's called. the man who built the bridge across the. I don't remember the name of the story, and I don't know if it was ever expanded into a novel, but I could spot it in a minute. I could recommend it in a minute. I have it in my reading journal. But I want to see if these will do the same thing, and if they do, then I will subscribe. I will go online and subscribe to these things, because that's what these magazines really need. After a year of pandemic, they need subscriptions. They need a solid, reliable base of income, not you going to a newsstand. They're happy if you do that. But what they really need are subscriptions. And the last one that I got is not a digest. It's a bigger magazine. It's the American revival of the Strand magazine that was famous for introducing Sherlock Holmes. Or not introducing him, but giving him the long run that made him a household name. Not the Christmas annual that actually introduced him, but the magazine that is synonymous with Sherlock Holmes. Is defunct. I believe the UK version is defunct, but an American version was started up again, and this is just the same thing. It's not the same as the digest, because it's all color, and there are a huge number of. I can't help but notice as I was flipping through it, there are a huge number of paid ads. So it may be that this one doesn't make the cut. It may be that this one I finish it and I think, okay, the stories are pretty good, but the ratio of text to advertising is distasteful. I don't want to be paying for ads. So not only paying for ads, or mostly paying for ads. So it might be that this doesn't make the cut, but I haven't read a copy of this in 20 years. So I'm going to give all three of these a try. I have high hopes for March Mystery Madness. I have high hopes for mystery periodicals. It'll be relatively new territory for me. But then we've got packages. We've got some mail. And I don't think any of these are from you. I don't think there are any violations of rule number 1 here. I think these are all from publishers. So let's see if I'm right about that. Oh, wow. Okay. All right. Okay, this is a mid-May release. Is that right? Yes, this is a mid-May release of House of Fiction. Nice, hefty thing. House of Fiction by Phyllis Richardson. Fictional houses have captured readers' imagination for centuries, from Gothic castles to Georgian stately homes to Bloomsbury townhouses and high-rise penthouses. This book illustrates how writers have used real and imagined houses to reflect the themes of their novels, how houses become, like characters themselves, embodiments of the social and historical currents of their time, and it examines the particular connections those authors may have had to each one. And I know that when you hear that description, you're already thinking of some. You're already thinking of some houses. Howard's End, Brideshead. You're already thinking of some. Let's see what is mentioned here. From the Gothic fantasies of Walpole's Otranto to postmodern takes on the country house by Ishiguro and McEwan, Phyllis Richardson guides us on a tour through buildings real and imagined to examine how authors' personal experiences help to shape the homes that have become icons of English literature. We encounter Jane Austen drinking too much wine in the lavish ballroom of Hampshire Manor, discover how Virginia Woolf loved the Talland House of St. Ives as is palpable in To the Lighthouse, and find Evelyn Waugh remembering Madresfield Court as he plots Charles Ryder's return to Brideshead. Drawing on historical sources, biographies, letters, diaries, and the novels themselves, House of Fiction opens the doors to these celebrated houses while offering candid glimpses of the writers who brought them to life. Totally on board. Totally on board. That is such a great idea. I think I may have read an article like this, but I don't think I've ever read a book on the subject. If one of you has, please let me know, because nagging at the back of my mind is the thought that this has been done before. But this is done in 2021. So who have we got here? Who have we got here? Does it say? Regency England, the Gothic novel, Walter Scott, Charlotte Bronte, Charles Dickens, Hardy, Foster, Galsworthy, Henry James, Virginia Woolf. Oh, fantastic. Fantastic. Julian Barnes, Ian Fleming, J.G. Ballard. Great. Fantastic. Totally on board. So that's May, and that is eagerly anticipated. In fact, I mean, it's early May, but I may read that today anyway, because it's just too interesting. It's just too interesting to let it go. Let's see here. Of course, much will depend on the execution, but I like the idea. All right, so what have we got here? This is from Restless Books. What have Restless Books got to send me here? All sorts of stuff here, all sorts of paperwork along with them. we do have a pub sheet. This is by Giacomo Sartori, and it's translated from the Italian by Frederica Randall, and it's called Bug. That's a neat cover. Bug. With the wicked humor and imagination that made readers fall in love with his novel, I Am God. I knew this author's name. I Am God. We saw that on this channel. The author brings us a madcap story of family dysfunction, disability, intelligent robots, bees, and a family of misfit savants living outside the bounds. Bug. In the singular world of the young, deaf narrator of this novel, there are just a handful of people who try to understand him when he gets into trouble at school. His father, a data analyst for Nutella, whose real job is to pinpoint terrorists, is clueless about humans in real life. His brother, called IQ in public and Robin Hood in the hacker sphere, has his back but is ever busier training his robot. His grandfather, a retired anarchist gorilla-turned-nematologist, chides him for misbehaving when he takes him hunting for worms. Meanwhile, his Buddhist beekeeper mother, ordinarily his closest confidant, has been in a coma ever since a terrible car accident. Okay, well, I'm on board, of course. That is just great. So it's a total misfit in a family of other total misfits. That is great. That is fantastic. Okay, so this comes out, let's see, as a paperback. Oh, the date on this says it's February 2nd. So this will be out already. See if your bookstore has this. That sounds like a lot of fun. And unlike a hardcover, it won't break the bank. I'll have to see if my bookstore has it. So that's out already. All right. And then we've got this next one. We have a cardboard envelope as well, but it's very thin. It's not a box, nor is it a chunkster of any kind. Let's see what this next one is. Oh, okay. We've seen a few of these, and I've been very happy to see it. It's like somebody out there knows that March Mystery Madness is a thing, as the kids say. This is another book from Stark House, who are reprinting great old murder mysteries. Never get enough of that, or we ought to have more of that. This is Big Steel and the Big Caper by, okay, once again, this particular kind of advanced copy has not for resale stamped right over the author's name. But I think it says Lionel White. Is that right? Yeah, Lionel White. Okay. And it's just, yours isn't going to have that obnoxious sticker, but that's what this is. It's just a reprint of a lost mystery classic author. So who have we got this time? Lionel White was born in 1905 in New York City. He started his career as a police reporter and true crime magazine editor and turned those experiences toward fiction writing with his first novel, The Snatchers. So we're not getting his debut here. In 1953, about a failed kidnapping. He wrote more than 35 books, many of them translated into different languages and turned into films like The Night of the Following Day, The Money Trap, The Big Caper, and perhaps most famously, The Killing, adapted by Stanley Kubrick from White's novel Clean Break. He was considered a master of the Big Caper and was credited by director Quentin Tarantino with the inspiration for his film Reservoir Dogs. And he died in Asheville, North Carolina in 1985. So this is an author who has a huge backlist I've never heard of. Never. So that is fantastic. Hats off to Stark House Press for doing these. This is like the third one of these that I've got. So this is going to come out as a paperback. It's going to be $20, and it comes out in May. And these originally were published in 1955 and 1960. Fantastic. Incredible. Okay. And the back has blurbs about these two books. No actual plot descriptions, but we know what we're dealing with here, a heist author. So that's fantastic. That is just great. Boy, oh boy, good on these people for doing this. So this is a May release. Fantastic. Okay, so, and then we've got this thing. It's a wafer thin. So it's not going to be anything that's going to send Steve into squeals of ecstasy. There's nothing this short that could do that. If somebody sends me a newly discovered satire of Horace, it's not going to happen. Well, no. No, it is poetry, and it is translated, but it's not Horace. This is the finished copy. Oh, we're getting a lot of paperbacks. Good. Very good. This is the finished copy of a new translation by Alfred Korn of the Duino elegies by Rilke. I think we saw the advanced copy of this. This is the finished copy. This is going to be a $13 paperback coming out in mid-April with the German on one side and English on the other, and with a new introduction, I believe. There's a translator's preface. Let's see what we have here. What you're getting for your $12, although for $13, a new translation of Rilke. Just get it. That's the thing with all these things. They're not going to break the bank. All these things put together are the cost of one new hardcover and a coffee. So you can get all of these things. Oh, okay, interesting. All right, so the book has only a translator's preface. I guess, in a way, that is more interesting than any bloviating introduction would be. And then you get a new translation. So let's see what we have here. Let's see here. The Duino elegies are one of the great literary masterpieces of the 20th century. I would actually kind of agree with that. A minor masterpiece, but still. Begun in 1912 while the poet was a guest at Duino Castle on the Adriatic and completed in a final bout of feverish inspiration in 1922, the 10 elegies survey the mysteries of consciousness, whether human or animal, earthly or divine. The translator brings us closer to the author's meaning than ever before and illuminates the elegies' celebration of life and love. Also included are a critical introduction exploring the nuances of the translation, several thematically linked lyrics, and 2 of the letters to a young poet to complete the volume. I have the advanced copy of this, but this, I'm hoping, gets lots of attention in April. Paperbacks tend, critical attention, I mean. Paperbacks tend not to get that attention, but I am sincerely hoping that this one will be the exception, because this is a noteworthy thing. And, you know, every big-time book reviewer for London Review of Books or the TLS or the New York Review of Books or whatever, they all have a mental card catalog or a literal card catalog. There's somebody on their list who's just itching to write about Rilke, and who'll write a 4,000-word piece that you can run and that'll be really good, a credit to that issue, that will springboard from this but not mention it all that much. That still counts. If you're a book publicist and you're looking to make sure there is interest in your book, that still counts. So I'm hoping that this gets lots of attention. I have certainly done my part to brood it from the rooftops with my fellow critics. So there you go. What an interesting mail haul. So we have a paperback original, a new translation of the Duino elegies. We have another paperback original. This is a reprint of vanished mystery writers, 2 of his books that's coming out in May, I think we said. Then we've got another paperback original that's in your bookstores now. This is Bug, also translated, about a weird misfit in a family of weird misfits. Then we have The House of Fiction. Now, did I mention whether or not this is coming out as a paperback? Yes, it is. This is coming out as a $16 paperback. So that is a clean sweep. All of our books are paperback releases, which is great. And The House of Fiction is a bigger book dealing with the roles that famous houses play in English literature. And we have all been to those houses, so that is a great idea for a book. We've all visited those houses. We have our own reactions. We feel as if we've been there in the great evocations, like, for instance, Atonement, Ian McEwan. And there are a bunch of others that I could name. I'm dying to know what a kind of a job this author does on this subject. But that's all paperbacks. So that is, what have we got here? This one is $16. Bug is, I believe, another $18, so that's $30, a little more than $30. Then this is $20, so that's $50, and then Duino Elegies is $13. So let's say $70 for 4 books, when a hardcover costs $35. So your money's going a long way if you want to get all of these, but you have a classic here in a new translation. You have a reprint volume of 2 old murder mysteries that you probably haven't read, probably haven't heard of. You have a weird novel translated from the Italian, and you have a big study of houses in fiction. There's not a dud in the bunch, and all in paperback releases, so you don't have to worry about breaking the bank. And also mystery periodicals, which I will read and report back on. So that is the mail for today. We'll see if more mail comes, but I think we're mailed out for today, don't you? Don't answer that. We don't get tubs of mail anymore, but maybe someday. Anyway, I'm going to wrap this up for now, but I'll be back. Thank you, BookTube.